The singing started somewhere near the back of the shelter. Dura Okonkwo pressed her hand against the concrete wall as another plasma bomb detonated above. The whole structure shook. Dust fell from the ceiling like gray snow. 2,000 people sat packed together in the underground chamber she had helped design 3 years ago, and they were singing that it was an old song, something from wars that happened before anyone here was born. The melody spread through the crowd like water, finding its way downhill. Old voices, young voices, scared voices that trembled but did not stop. Dara had expected screaming. She had expected panic. She had spent months planning evacuation routes and emergency protocols for when people lost their minds to fear. Nobody was losing their minds that a woman nearby was braiding her daughter's hair. Two old men argued about a football match from 20 years ago. A teenager shared his last chocolate bar with a stranger. Above them, the red Hani hegemony was burning New Brisbane to ash. Dara moved through the crowd, checking structural points, looking for cracks. She found a group of engineers already working on a small leak in the eastern section. Nobody had told them to. They just saw a problem and started fixing it. How long until the next wave? One of them asked. 20 minutes, Dara said. Maybe less. The man nodded and worked faster. Somewhere in orbit, on the flagship called Eternal Dominion, Fleet Commander Yasser stared at his display screens with growing confusion. He had conquered 11 worlds using this exact method. Orbital bombardment. Destroy the infrastructure. Kill enough civilians to break the spirit. Every species cracked within days. The Pelori had surrendered after 6 hours. The Vindashi lasted 2 days before their leaders came begging. Humans were entering their 8th day. Show me the shelter feeds again, Yasser ordered. His intelligence officer pulled up the footage. Hidden sensors showed the inside of human shelters across the planet. Yasser watched them carefully. They were not crying. They were not fighting each other for food. They were not turning on their leaders. They were organizing. What is this? Yasser pointed at one screen. A group of humans had arranged chairs in neat rows. Young ones sat while older ones stood at the front, talking and drawing on makeshift boards. We believe it is an education center, his officer said. They are teaching their children. Teaching them what? Mathematics, history, literature. Yasser felt something cold move through his body. We are bombing them. We have killed 300,000 of their people. And they're teaching mathematics? Yes, Commander. In the New Brisbane shelter, Dara found the makeshift school. A retired teacher named Grace had started it on the 2nd day. She said children needed routine. She said they needed to believe in a future worth learning. 4.30 kids sat in neat rows, solving problems on scraps of paper. Miss Grace, a small boy, raised his hand. Will the aliens stop bombing us? Grace smiled. It was a real smile, not a performance. Eventually, yes. How do you know? Because bombs run out. People don't. The shelter shook again. Nobody screamed. The children looked up, waited for the shaking to stop, and went back to their problems. Dara reported to the shelter coordinator, a stocky man named Patrick, who had been a hospital administrator before the war. Eastern leak is fixed, she said. Western ventilation needs work. I need 3 people. Take whoever you need. How is food? Ration, but stable. The hydroponic team got the emergency gardens running. Already. Patrick shrugged. People want to help. Sitting around waiting to die makes them crazy. Working keeps them sane. That night, Dara sat against a wall and listened to the bombs fall. She thought about the aliens up there, watching them. She wondered what they saw. Did they see weakness? Fear? She looked around the shelter. A young couple held hands. An old woman knitted something from unraveled sweaters. 3 men played cards using bottle caps as chips. A girl read a story to her younger brother. They were not waiting to be saved. They were living. The next morning, Yasser received a report that made no sense. Human industrial output has increased by 3%, his analyst said. That is impossible. We destroyed 60% of their factories. They have moved production underground. They're building new facilities in caves, tunnels, abandoned mines. Their manufacturing has actually grown since we began bombing. Yasser sat in silence for a long moment. He had studied humans before the invasion. He knew about their wars, their weapons, their violence. He thought he understood them, but he was beginning to realize he understood nothing. Commander, his communications officer spoke. The High Council demands a progress report. Yasser looked at the screens. Somewhere on that planet, in a hole in the ground, humans were singing and teaching and building and refusing to break. Tell the Council, he said slowly, that we may need to reconsider our timeline. Below, in the shelter, the singing had started again. The footage showed a group of teenagers fighting over a cooking pot. Yasser leaned forward, finally seeing what he expected. Violence, competition, the breakdown of social order. This was how conquered species behaved. Then he realized they were not fighting. They were laughing. What are they doing? He asked his psychological warfare specialist. The specialist studied the feed. They appear to be competing, but not for food. They are competing to make the best meal from their rations. That makes no sense. They have created a tournament. Other humans are judging. They call it the Ration Chef Championship. Yasser turned off the screen. He had been watching human shelters for 3 weeks now. Every day brought new confusion. They held weddings underground. They celebrated birthdays with candles made from cooking fat. They organized exercise classes and debate clubs and music performances. They acted like they were not dying in London. Deep in the old metro tunnels, Beni Adeyemi sat with a circle of children. She had been a child psychologist before the bombs. Now, she was something more important. She was a storyteller. The bombing monster is big, she said, drawing on the dusty floor with chalk. Very big. It has fire breath and it makes loud noises. The children nodded. They knew the bombing monster well. But here is the secret about the bombing monster. Benny leaned close. It is afraid of us. A girl named Lily frowned. How can it be afraid? It is big and we are small. Because we do something it cannot understand. We stay together. We help each other. Every time someone shares their food, the monster gets weaker. Every time someone tells a joke, the monster gets smaller. Every time we sing, the monster wants to run away. Is that true? A boy asked. Benny smiled. Do you want it to be true? The children thought about this. Yes, they said together. Then it is true. Now, let us practice making the monster smaller. Who knows a joke? Hands shot up everywhere. On the Eternal Dominion, Yasser read through human history files. He had been reading for days. He could not stop. The Blitz. Humans had been bombed for months. They went to work the next morning, Stalingrad. A city destroyed completely. Humans fought for every building, every room, every staircase. Hiroshima. A weapon that should have ended all resistance. Survivors started rebuilding within weeks. They have been doing this forever, Yasser said to himself. Breaking and rebuilding. Over and over. His door chimed. A junior officer entered. Commander, our ground scouts have been captured. Yasser felt his heart sink. He had sent a small team to study human shelters up close. Good soldiers, all of them. Are they alive? Yes, Commander. The humans are keeping them prisoner. Show me. The video feed showed 3 Rethani soldiers sitting in a small room. They looked confused but unharmed. A human woman sat across from them. She was offering them cups of something hot. What is this? Yasser demanded. We believe it is called tea, Commander. The humans are giving our soldiers tea. Why? Nobody could answer. The woman on screen smiled at the prisoners. She patted one on the arm in a way that seemed almost friendly. The humans have also provided blankets, the officer added, and medical treatment for one soldier who is injured. And they have been asking if our people have any dietary restrictions they should know about. Yasser sat down heavily. He had prepared for resistance. He had prepared for guerrilla warfare, for ambushes, for suicide attacks. He had studied how humans could be cruel and brutal and savage. He had not prepared for tea. That night, Benny walked through the London shelter. Thousands of people filled the tunnels. They had carved out spaces for living, sleeping, working. It smelled like sweat and fear, but also like cooking food and burning candles that a young man sat alone, staring at nothing. Benny sat beside him. Are you all right? My whole family was above ground when the first bombs hit. I am sorry. He was quiet for a moment. I thought about giving up, just walking outside and letting it end. What stopped you? He pointed to a group of children playing nearby. Them. They need teachers. I used to teach football. Now I teach them in the shelter. They call me coach. Benny put her hand on his arm. That is how we win. Not with weapons. With reasons to keep living. The young man wiped his eyes and stood up. I have a class in 10 minutes. Kids are waiting. Benny watched him go. This was what the aliens could not understand. Humans were not strong because they felt no pain. They were strong because they found meaning in the pain. They looked at darkness and built small lights. The Hegemony Council sent a message to Yasser that evening. Results are unacceptable. You are authorized to escalate. Chemical weapons approved for deployment. Yasser read the order twice. He thought about the woman offering tea to prisoners. He thought about children learning mathematics under bombs. He thought about teenagers laughing over cooking competitions, that he wondered what chemicals would do to their spirits, that he suspected he already knew the answer. Nothing. The dog had been howling for 3 days. Sergeant Priya Nair crawled through the rubble with her team behind her. They had 40 minutes before the next bombing wave. 40 minutes to cross 4 blocks of destroyed city, find one trapped animal, and get back underground. That IT was insane. It was dangerous. It was completely necessary. There, her scout whispered. Under that collapsed building, Priya saw the dog, a brown mutt, skinny and scared, trapped under a fallen beam. It saw them, and its tail started wagging. Get the lifters ready. We have 32 minutes. They worked fast and quiet. The beam came up. The dog scrambled out and immediately tried to lick everyone's face. Got him. Move. They ran back through streets that used to be home to millions. Now, they were empty graves of concrete and ash. 26 minutes later, they dropped into the tunnel entrance. The dog was still wagging its tail. That a small boy was waiting at the bottom. His eyes went wide. You found him. As promised, Priya said. What are you going to call him? Lucky, the boy said, hugging the filthy dog. Because he is lucky to have us. Priya watched them go. One of her team members shook his head. We risked 4 lives for a dog. We risked 4 lives so a kid could sleep tonight. Different thing entirely. The chemical attacks had started a week ago. Green clouds that burned skin and filled lungs with fire. The Red Honey had expected mass death, mass panic, mass surrender. Instead, within 48 hours, every shelter in the world had working gas masks. Engineers had figured out the chemical composition from the first victims. Factories had switched production overnight. Volunteers had distributed millions of masks through tunnel networks that stretched across continents. Now the green clouds came, and people simply put on their masks and kept working. At in Mumbai mega shelter, Priya attended the weekly coordination meeting. Representatives from 12 different shelters gathered around a table made from old doors. Food production is up 7%, the agriculture lead reported. The new mushroom farms are working. Medical supplies, stable. The underground labs are producing antibiotics now. What about the shelter games? Everyone smiled at that. The games had started as a joke. Small competitions between shelters to keep spirits high. Now they were a global phenomenon. New Brisbane is winning the engineering challenge. London took the cooking competition. Mumbai is leading in the athletics category. We need to try harder, Priya said. I will not lose to Brisbane in anything. People laughed. It was the laugh of people who had found something beyond survival. They had found pride. Later, Priya walked through the shelter. A massive space carved from old subway systems and basements and underground parking lots. 50,000 people lived here now. They had schools and hospitals and workshops and gardens. They had a radio station. The voice came through old speakers mounted on walls. Good evening, Earth. This is the radio, connecting humans everywhere. Tonight we have a special message from the Berlin shelter where a baby was born this morning. His name is David, and his parents want the world to know that he screamed very loudly and pooped immediately, which they consider a sign of strong character. People around Priya chuckled. The bombing continues. The gas attacks continue. And we continue. Here is a song request from the London Children's Shelter, dedicated to everyone who is scared tonight. Remember, you are not alone. You are never alone. Music filled the tunnels. An old song about not giving up. Priya found herself humming along. On the Eternal Dominion, Yasser watched Red Honey drop pods land on human cities. Each pod contained thousands of pamphlets offering terms of surrender. The response came within hours. Humans had collected the pamphlets. They had drawn funny pictures on them. They had written jokes and insults and rude suggestions about what the Red Hani could do with their surrender terms. Then they had sent photographs back through captured communication equipment. They're using our surrender documents for toilet paper, Yasser's aide reported. I can see that. They also appear to be holding a competition for the most creative insult. Yasser closed his eyes. Every escalation made them stronger. Every attack gave them something to push against. Commander, we have received intelligence from the southern continent. The humans are building something. What? We do not know. Underground facilities. Heavy power signatures. Significant activity. Yasser studied the reports. Australia. They were building something in the empty center of the continent, deep underground. Can we bomb it? The facilities are too deep. We would need ground forces. Ground forces against a species that had already captured 3 scout teams. A species that gave prisoners tea and asked about their dietary needs. What are they building? Yasser asked the empty room 2,000 kilometers below, in a cavern that had not existed 6 weeks ago. Dura Okonkwo watched the first human fighter craft roll off the assembly line. 200 more were coming. It is not much, the chief engineer said. Against their fleet, this is nothing. Dara ran her hand along the metal hull. It is not about winning. It is about showing them we can hit back. Will that matter? Dara thought about the boy with his dog, the children learning math, the radio playing music every night. Everything matters, she said. That is what they do not understand about us. Everything matters because we decide it matters. The factory hummed around her. Workers moved in shifts that never stopped. Some had lost everything. Some had lost everyone. They were still building. 200 ships rose from the Australian desert like angry wasps. The doctor, Samuel Osei, watched from the underground command center as the human counterattack began. 3 months of secret construction. Thousands of workers who slept 4 hours a night. Engineers who held funerals for their dead and then went back to their stations. This was the result. They are engaging the enemy fleet, his tactical officer reported. First wave contact in 30 seconds. Samuel did not expect victory. The Red Hani fleet had thousands of ships. His little force was a mosquito biting an elephant, but mosquitoes could still draw blood. On the Eternal Dominion, alarm screamed. Yasser rushed to the bridge as explosions rocked his ship. Where did they come from? The surface, Commander. Underground launch facilities we never detected. Yasser watched his display. Human ships swarmed around his fleet like insects. They were smaller, weaker, less armed. They died by dozens. They kept coming. How is this possible? We destroyed their manufacturing. They rebuilt it. Underground. During the bombing, a human ship crashed directly into a Red Hani destroyer. The pilot had aimed for the engine section. Both ships exploded together. Did that pilot just kill himself intentionally? Yes, Commander. Several others have done the same. They are targeting critical systems. Yasser watched another human ship make a suicide run. Through his sensors, he could see the pilot's face in the final seconds. The human was smiling. Actually smiling. Commander, we are receiving transmission from the human ships. What does it say? His communications officer looked confused. It says, "Did you miss us?" The battle lasted 6 hours. The humans lost 140 ships. The Red Hani lost 12 destroyers and 2 carriers. By any measure, the Red Hani had won. But Yasser knew better. He walked through his ship after the battle. His crew was shaken. These were soldiers who had conquered worlds without fear. Now they whispered in corridors. They jumped at shadows. They were afraid. Yasser found the prisoner section. The captured Red Hani scouts had been returned during a brief ceasefire negotiation. He had ordered them isolated for debriefing. He entered the cell of the team leader, a veteran named Koss. "Tell me about the humans," Yasser said. Koss stared at the wall. "They gave us beds. Real beds. Soft blankets. 3 meals a day." "I know. What else?" "They played games with us. Card games, ball games. They taught us their sports." Koss finally looked at Yasser. "One of their children drew me a picture. A picture of me and her, holding hands. She called me friend. Did they interrogate you? Yes. They asked if we were comfortable. They asked if we needed medical attention. They asked about our families back home. Koss shook his head slowly. Commander, I have been a soldier for 30 years. I have seen cruelty and hatred across the galaxy. I have never seen anything like these humans. They are soft. No. Koss grabbed Yasser's arm. They're the opposite of soft. They're so strong they can afford to be kind. Do you understand? They are not kind because they are weak. They are kind because they are unbreakable. Yasser left the cell with those words echoing in his mind that in the Mumbai shelter, Priya gathered her team around a radio. News of the counterattack had spread through every tunnel on Earth. 140 pilots gave their lives, the radio announced. They knew they could not win. They went anyway. Tonight we honor them not for their deaths, but for their choice. They chose to fight back. They chose to show our enemy that Earth still has teeth. Priya thought about those pilots. Regular people a few months ago. Teachers and farmers and engineers and shop workers. Now heroes. The war is not over, the radio continued. But today we proved something important. We proved that humans adapt. We proved that you cannot bomb us into submission. We proved that we're still here, still fighting, still human. In shelters across the world, people cheered. On the Eternal Dominion, Yasser received a message from the Hegemony Council. Your timeline is unacceptable. You are ordered to end this war within 30 days or face replacement. Final option is authorized. Destroy their atmosphere if necessary. Make the planet uninhabitable. Yasser read the order 3 times. Final option. Burning away the air itself. Every human would die. Every child learning mathematics. Every teenager holding cooking competitions. Every dog rescued from rubble. He could end it all with one command. He looked at the planet on his view screen. Blue and green and white. A ball of rock where creatures had learned to sing underground while fire rained from the sky. Commander, his aide waited. Your response to the council? Yasser was silent for a long time. Tell them I need 72 hours. I will break them in 72 hours. He did not believe his own words, but he needed time. Time to understand. Time to find another way. Time to decide what kind of commander he wanted to be. The message reached every shelter on Earth at the same moment. This is the Global Defense Council. We have confirmed that the enemy plans to burn our atmosphere in 72 hours. There is no evacuation. There is no escape. We have 3 days. In New Brisbane, Dara listened to the announcement with 2,000 others. Nobody screamed. Nobody panicked. People held their families close. Some cried quietly. Then a voice from the crowd spoke up. Well, better get back to work then. And they did. In London, Benny gathered her children one more time. They sat in their circle, looking at her with eyes that understood more than children should. Is the bombing monster going to win? Lily asked. Benny thought about lying. She decided against it. Maybe. We do not know yet. Are we scared? Yes. Everyone is scared. Then why is nobody running away? Benny similed. Because there is nowhere to run. And because running was never our way. Humans do not run. We stand together. We fight together. If we lose together, at least we lose as family. The children nodded. They understood. Can we still tell jokes? The smallest boy asked. We can always tell jokes. That is the rule. In Mumbai, Priya led her entire team to the surface. They joined hundreds of other fighters preparing for the final assault. 60 human ships remained. Against a fleet of thousands. It was hopeless. This is suicide, her second-in-command said. Yes. Then why are we going? Priya checked her weapon. Because they need to know. Even at the end, humans do not give up. We make them pay for every meter. We make them remember us. Will that matter? If we are all dead? Priya looked at her team. Scared faces. Determined faces. Human faces. It matters to us. Right now. That is enough. On the Eternal Dominion, Yasser sat in darkness watching human archives, footage of survivors walking out of death camps. Skeleton bodies with eyes still full of hope. They had been starved and tortured and watched their families murdered. Within days of freedom, they were getting married, starting families, choosing life. Footage of a city turned to nuclear ash. People with radiation burns building hospitals from rubble, footage of natural disasters, earthquakes and floods and fires. Humans always running toward the danger, always helping strangers, always rebuilding. What are you? Yasser whispered to the screen. The archives held no answer. Only more images. Soldiers carrying wounded enemies to safety. Doctors treating the same people who had attacked them. Forgiveness offered to those who had done unforgivable things. His door chimed. Commander, the human fleet is launching. How many ships? 60. 60 ships against thousands. They knew they would die. They were coming anyway. Yasser walked to the bridge. He watched the human ships approaching on his display. Small points of light against the vast darkness. Point one ship broadcast a message. A human voice, calm and clear. Attention Red Hani fleet. We are coming to discuss your surrender terms. Please have snacks ready. Yasser almost laughed. Almost. Commander, shall we engage? He watched the ships coming. Tiny, fragile, utterly outmatched, completely unafraid. His mind went to the children drawing pictures in shelters. The old woman knitting from sweater threads. The boy with his rescued dog. The teenagers laughing over cooking competitions. These were not soldiers. They were the soldiers' families. Their reasons for fighting. Their reasons for living that in 3 days, the atmosphere would burn. Every laugh and every song and every small act of kindness would end. Because the council wanted submission. Because surrender was the only acceptable outcome. Commander, his weapons officer waited. Your orders? Yasser thought about costs and his words. They are so strong they can afford to be kind. He thought about the woman offering tea to prisoners. He thought about what kind of commander he wanted to be. Hold fire, he said. The bridge went silent. Commander, I said hold fire. He opened a channel to his entire fleet. His voice would reach every Red Hani ship in orbit. This is Fleet Commander Yasser. I have served the hegemony for 40 years. I have conquered 11 worlds. I have always believed in our way, our strength, our right to rule. He paused. Today I give you a choice. In 3 days, we are ordered to burn this planet's atmosphere, to kill 8 billion people, children, families, people who offer tea to their enemies and rescue dogs during bombing raids and teach mathematics while fire falls from the sky. His crew stared at him. I will not give that order. I will not be the one who ends them. If you believe as I do, power down your weapons. If you believe the council is right, then relieve me of command. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, ships began powering down. 40% of the fleet joined him. The other 60% opened fire, and suddenly humans and Red Hani were fighting on the same side. The battle above Earth lasted 18 hours. Red Hani fought Red Hani while human pilots flew alongside their former enemies. Ships exploded in silent flowers of light. Thousands died in the cold darkness between stars. When it ended, Yasser's faction had won. The Loyalist fleet was broken and scattered. The Council's kill order would never be carried out. Yasser descended to Earth under a white flag. His shuttle landed in the ruins of New Brisbane, in a field that had once been a park. Humans gathered around him, soldiers with weapons, civilians with suspicious eyes that he expected hatred. He had bombed their cities. He had killed their families. He had brought monsters to their door. An old woman pushed through the crowd. She walked right up to Yasser and looked him up and down. You are too thin, she said. When did you last eat properly? Yasser did not know how to answer. Come, the woman said, taking his arm. We will find you something. The shelter kitchen is not fancy, but the soup is hot. And just like that, Fleet Commander Yasser, conqueror of 11 worlds, was led to lunch by someone's grandmother. The peace negotiations took 3 months. Humans did not demand revenge. They did not ask for Red Hani blood. They wanted only one thing. Never again, Dara said at the final meeting. You leave our system. You spread the word. Earth is not for conquering. Yasser signed the agreement. 1 year later, he stood in the rebuilt streets of New Brisbane. Construction crews worked everywhere. New buildings rose from the ashes. People walked and laughed and lived. Dara found him watching a group of children playing in a new park. Among them were 3 young Red Hani, the first ambassador children. They were learning human games. Losing badly. Laughing anyway. I did not understand it, Yasser said. Understand what? Any of it. We bombed you for months. We used chemical weapons. We killed millions. And now your children play with our children like nothing happened. Dara watched a little girl teach a Rethani boy how to throw a ball. Something happened, she said. We just choose what to do with it. How can you forgive? Forgiveness is not about you. It is about us. Carrying hatred is heavy. We have enough to carry. Yasser shook his head. My people would hold grudges for generations. So did mine once. We learned, slowly, painfully, through a million years of fighting ourselves. We learned that hate destroys the one who holds it. Dara put her hand on his arm. You saved us, Yasser. You could have burned our sky. You chose not to. I was infected. Infected by you. Your kindness. Your hope. Your stubborn refusal to be what we expected. He looked at her. You broke something in me. Something I needed broken. The children's laughter drifted across the park. One Rethani child had finally caught the ball. The human children cheered like he had won a war. We studied you for years, Yasser said. Your violence. Your wars. Your weapons. We thought we understood what humans were. And now I think we studied the wrong things. We saw how you hurt each other. We should have studied how you survive each other. Dara smiled. That is the part that is indestructible. They walked together through the rebuilding city. Past workers who waved. Past shops opening for the first time. Past a memorial wall where names of the dead were carved in stone. Past a building that had once been a shelter. Dara stopped. Do you want to see something? She led him inside. The shelter had been converted to a museum. Displays showed life underground during the bombing. Photos of people working, learning, playing, living. On one wall, written in hundreds of different hands, were words that covered every inch of space. We wrote this during the worst night, Dara said, when we thought we would all die. People came and added their own messages. Yasser read them, names and dates and small drawings. Messages of love and hope and defiance. Promises to remember. Promises to rebuild. That I in the center, larger than the rest, was a single sentence that we were here. We stayed. We did not break. Yasser stood before that wall for a long time. You really are the strangest species in the galaxy, he finally said. Probably. Dara shrugged. But we are still here. That has to count for something. Outside, the sun was setting on New Brisbane. Children were called home for dinner. Workers put down their tools. Families gathered in new homes built from old ruins. The bombing had ended. The war had ended. The threat had passed, but the humans kept building anyway. Kept teaching. Kept loving. Kept choosing to see tomorrow as something worth fighting for. They always would. That was the thing about humans that no one ever understood until it was too late. You could bomb them. You could gas them. You could threaten to burn their entire world, but you could not make them give up, because giving up had simply never occurred to them.